Hello and welcome to Bonus Action Dash. My name is Jaren. This is Sunday D&D Prep, a stream on this channel where I pull back the curtain and take you through what I do to prep for my Sunday D&D game. I'm running the 5th edition adventure, published adventure by WotC, Rime of the Frostmaiden, and we are coming up. This is session 54, and we're kind of in endgame stuff. We're in the very final chapter of the book, almost the final leg. I don't suspect that we have many more sessions left to go. But things are exciting. Now, if you've never seen this stream before, I've gone ahead and done some work. I filled out my notes a little bit ahead of time just to avoid a lot of streaming the sound of me typing on the keyboard. And additionally, a lot of the work of D&D prep is simply thinking about what I want to do next, thinking about the campaign, thinking about what happened, things to come, and building on the things that I've already prepared. So by the time I'm sitting down here to take notes, it's a lot of the work has been done. It's simply me putting my ideas to paper. That said, these are the notes that I will be using in the game. Now tonight I've got a bit of a unique situation. We're doing something a little bit different tonight. A couple of days ago, I was reminded that one of my players wasn't going to be able to make the next few upcoming Sunday nights for D&D. And so I tried to find a time that everybody else could meet. We're going to push the sessions, at least this week, will be tomorrow night. So this prep that I'm doing today is for tomorrow night. Knowing that one of the players said, well, this is kind of like their only time that they could meet for D&D. And they were fine with maybe missing one or two. Was not a big deal to them. I also know that I don't want to delay any further since we're so close to the end of the campaign. I want to maintain momentum. We're also getting into the holiday season, so I don't want to delay it further and then it ends up being late January before we finally reconvene. I don't feel like that would be a very satisfying way to go forward. I feel like we risk losing a bunch of momentum, and I want to make sure to wrap this up and keep it intense and keep it going and have people still remember what's going on. So I had a unique opportunity. We're gonna do with 3 out of the 4 players tomorrow night, and then I thought, well, the section that we're in currently, it's basically a dungeon. We're in the last remaining final tower. Oh gosh, when you zoom in with Roll20, things are kind of odd. We're in this last final tower in the lost city of Ethrin. It's this gigantic tower in the very center of the city. Which happens to be the Tower of Aerial Arthas, the former Lich who ruled the city, now in Demi-Lich form, who's kind of gone crazy and has no idea what's happened to his beloved city. Simply views anybody that's an intruder as here to do nefarious things and, usurp his power, all that stuff. But this final tower here, even looking at the map, you can kind of see that it's a very, very straightforward linear dungeon, right? Players go from one point, the first entry hall level, they do some stuff, they make their way through it, they go to the next floor, they make their way through, they go to the final floor, they fight Aerial Arthas. It's very, very linear and straightforward. The only question is, what do they do along the way? What things do they discover? How do they interact with NPCs? So I thought, knowing that it's kind of a linear dungeon and it's basically going to unfold bigger picture the same way, they're going to get to the end, they're going to fight Aerial Arthas. Hopefully they don't all die. Knowing that it's basically linear, I thought I have a very unique opportunity here, and I offered this to the player. He seemed very excited about it, the one that was not going to be able to make tomorrow night. And I said, well, what if you and I ran a one-on-one tonight, and I take you through some stuff. We do it kind of in scenes, in sections, because I know it's pretty linear, and I know it's basically going to run all the same way, whether you're there or not. But if I can do this one-on-one with you, have you kind of like lead the action, that way I know tomorrow night pretty much what your character is going to do. And I also am able to keep them involved in the story in a very one-on-one direct way. It's much more preferable to do it that way, I think, than to simply have them come back in 2 weeks and I tell them what happened. I feel like this is a lot more exciting. They get to interact in a front row sort of a way and see the story unfold, and I make them feel good because I still include them in the game. And I don't mind doing that. I told the players that if Sundays are ever not going to work for the last part of this campaign, I will run D&D whenever y'all can meet, even if it's at 6 in the morning. I'll get up and do that because I want to finish this campaign the right way and do it right and not have it, petered out because we couldn't figure out a schedule, especially knowing that we've got probably less than half a dozen sessions left to go. So that's kind of what I'm doing tonight. I am still going to prep as normal. A bulk of the notes won't really come into play until tomorrow night during the actual session. But tonight, when I do a one-on-one with this player, it's going to be a unique experience because they're going to have to lead the action. And they're normally more involved in the combat part. And every now and then they will say their thing and offer up some suggestions for what the party wants to do. But I get the sense that they lean more towards the spectator end of player types. If you're familiar with player types, go watch Matt Colville's video. But it's going to be interesting because they're going to have to take a little bit more of an active role in leading the action. And I think it'll be really fun. It'll be really fun to see what they do and kind of how things unfold. I'm not quite sure how we're going to do combat. Maybe I will just run it out and see what happens, and I will, sort of take some stock actions from the other players that I'm running, or I could just have them. I might just do it this way too, where I just have that player at the table roll, and I will just kind of roll some blanket dice for the other 3 party members to just get an average of what would happen. We'll see. Maybe I'll just have them roll and we can kind of like describe. Maybe we'll go through the scene and we'll say, well, let's assume that you all make it through this encounter. Here's the next steps. What do you do? This is what happens after you succeed in this combat. What do you do? It's probably not going to take a regular full 3-hour long normal session to do tonight's one-on-one. But again, wanted to make sure that this player felt like they were still being involved in the campaign and not left out to kind of just be a third wheel in the party. I want to make sure that they're still involved. So this is my solution. I've never done anything like this. I hope it works. I think it's going to be a reasonable solution. So let's actually do some D&D prep, since we're here to do some D&D prep. So tonight, session number 54, review of last session. I guess before I start too, wanted to mention I am using the Return to the Lazy Dungeon Master format for my session prep. Mostly, it's a little bit different. There are some things that I'm not using just because of, I guess, many factors, the location that I'm in terms of the campaign. The fact that I've got a lot of the things in my head that I don't really need to reference on a note card. And I'm using Notion the actual software Notion to take my notes. It's a really good database software online for free, really intuitive. So that's the 2 things that I'm looking at. Last time, the players had just completed the Arcane Octad, this 8-part sequence of things that they needed to do in order to disable this force field that surrounded the Arthas Spire. Having done so and having revealed, all their secrets and all that stuff, they were able to pass through, all 4 of them, into the interior of the Spire. I think last time as well, we started off with the fight. I got to backtrack a little bit more because it's been a couple of weeks. They had a showdown with the Arcanoloth Scrivenscry, who they first encountered in the library, and where they met this awakened albino penguin named Kingsport. They decided to help, and it was later revealed that Scrivenscry was in possession of Diviner Apius' spellbook, which had the last piece of the Octad. That's kind of what I forgot to mention. They had encountered Scrivenscry once before, and it was a very intense, close fight. So I was fully prepared for it to be that again. This time, not so much. Scrivenscry was sort of in the middle of the pack with the initiative. Our Echo Knight fighter, Jack Forrest, was at the top of the round, and he blew everything in the first round. He has all these incantations, or they're not incarnations, I think that's what they're called, with the Echo Knight fighter, where if you do everything, second wind and all this stuff, or not second wind, action surge, all this stuff. He got 6 attacks on the opening round and did like 90 some damage out of Scrivenscry's 110 hit points. It's a very quick fight, And he messaged me privately and said, "Is this cool? Do I need to like? Is my character broken or OP?" And I'm like, "No, man. That's just sometimes how the dice roll. If you want to shoot your shot all in the first round, you can do that. And I'm gonna reward those good dice rolls. When you hit all 6 times against a strong enemy, I'm gonna reward it. And that's just how it falls sometimes. I got to reward good dice rolls as well as bad. So they made quick business out of Scriven Scry. Kind of unfortunate because they didn't get to learn all the cool lore behind Arcanoloth. Um, but it's whatever. That's not entirely crucial to the story. So they had their last piece. They did the Arcane Octad. They opened up the tower. I heard 2 things. I heard the door to the tower at the support beam here open up. They went over to the Mythalar and were starting to kind of study and investigate it. With the Identify spell, learn all of its properties, the fact that it can power up magical items that have charges. It can cast control weather up to 50-mile radius. It can fly the city, basically. Also learn that you probably shouldn't touch it because bad things happen when you touch a raw Mythalar. And that's kind of when they noticed that Iriel Arthas had come to kind of check them out. Iriel Arthas, still attuned to the Mythalar, knew that someone was checking his thing out, checking out the Mythalar. So he was just coming on to watch. And they kind of pressed him a little bit too far. Used the scream effect. 2 players fell. And Iriel Arthas bolted up to the top floor. So I did this primarily to kind of foreshadow and to let them know, hey, this is not going to be easy. Iriel Arthas has some pretty nasty stuff. So be ready. Right? So, and to also like know that like probably shouldn't get up close if you can help it. Just to give them some idea of how to approach the problem instead of just throwing the problem at them all at once. And then they have to figure it out. So that's so they have they saw Iriel Arthas leave. They decided to go back to the doorway at the support beam, went up into the spire, and it was a cool moment where I got to describe them magically ascending through the city to the top of the spire, seeing the beautiful city from below or from above. I imagine like it's like one of those moving sidewalks through the air, where they can see out, but you can't see in. So they got this really cool view of the city. And then they entered into the spire. Had a brief, wasn't even really an encounter, but they saw this Magen once they got to the top here and saw these doors and this Magen kind of poking out, trying to get them to leave. They resisted his suggestion spell. The Magen then retreated into this back room here. They went into the doors, unlocked doors. They went in, saw this beautiful... it was like a big party, basically. There were people dancing, milling about. There was music. There were servants carrying trays of hors d'oeuvres and stuff. And some of the partygoers were asking them, like, "Hey, what's the latest gossip? Tell us what's going on down on the ground." They tried to interact with this party, and seems like it's real. It's just a really powerful illusion, but they don't know that yet. And they started exploring, looking around the ballroom area. There's a group of musicians over in the corner. There's a bar that you can get drinks at and stuff over here. I think 19C is where the study is, where they can find this some notes about what's going on. Including where the spindle is, the thing that inevitably pulled Ethan crashing to the ground. They did see this open window at the very back of the hall, and a black empty nothingness, a black void, and on the other side another open window with a lit interior. They couldn't see what it was. They started exploring down this hallway off to the bottom right and saw the Magen go back into this corner room here. Heard some chatter, heard some talking. The Magen exited back out and they entered in to the room to see what was going on. And that's where they came face to face with Veneranda. Veneranda is this really nasty looking thing. I know we have it here in the module. It's 19E. It's a brain in a jar that's got a suit of armor that it's attached to. Where I know that it exists. Is it at the top here? Maybe it is in this page here. No, where is it? I had this problem the other time too. I know that the artwork exists. It's not the brain in the jar. Is it this page here? Oh, yeah, okay. So it's sort of like it's not this entire suit of armor. It is oh, here we go. I don't know why they hid it in this location here. It's a brain in a jar that sits atop a suit of armor with the stats of the helmed horror. They don't know who she is, what she is, why she's here. It's this really cool chamber that has all sorts of test tubes and beakers and all sorts of stuff. Basically, it looked like the interior of the Tower of Necromancy, where they met Lawrence, the really charismatic brain in a jar. And so we ended the session where they come face to face with Veneranda. So tonight, this is where I'm going to pick up one-on-one with Jack Forrest, the Echo Knight, just to see. He'll be kind of leading the action. But they're going to find out. I guess, am I going to do it this way? I don't think I'm going to fill out much of these notes tonight because a lot of the things I already know, and I'm going to be referencing it based on probably last week's notes anyways. I might need to make a separate page. I think I remember last week I did take shorthand notes. Yeah, I want to save all this. Let's just copy this into its own page. Pretty sure I can do this. Let's try it out anyways. So in Notion, I think I can just create a new page here, and we'll call this Tower of Uriel Larthus. Make it, not templates, I did this wrong. Empty. Can I just paste it? I can, it's so useful. And now this should be a new page. Tower of Uriel Larthus. Now I can go back into Notion and simply link to that. Tower. Here we go. Tower of Uriel Larthus. Now I can pull this up from my notes for tonight. It should open. There we go. I like doing it this way. I like having these notes this way that reference this map. Because I just need a quick word to remind myself what it is. I don't want to spend time during the session. Come on, open back up. I don't want to spend time during the session scrolling through, trying to find the thing, reading a paragraph, looking for specific information. I don't really need all that. I've already read all of this stuff. I just need a quick 1 sentence or 2-3 word reminder of what each spot is. So I'd rather have something like this. Oh, it's the Force Bridge, it's the bar, it's the den with the musicians, the Chamber of the Ebon Star that has, let me put this on here. Oh, that's not that. The Chamber of Sorcery and Everlast. Yeah, that's this back section here. So pretty much, I'm going to see how Jack responds to Veneranda. She is going to be questioning. That's kind of where we're starting the session. Veneranda is questioning the party, recognizes that they're obviously outsiders. They're not partygoers. And she's well aware of what's going on. She's well aware of the status of Uriel Larthus, of the rest of the tower. Her primary goal is she wants to fix Ithrin. In other words, she wants to get the Staff of Power and activate the obelisk, go back in time before it crashed. She knows that the Staff of Power is the key. She knows it is in Iriel Arthas' uh, personal chambers, which is the very top floor of this tower, and knows that the spire is pretty well trapped and secured, and that's why she hasn't gone on her own to try and get it yet, because it's way too much of a risk. Now, her offer, if the party decides that she's worth negotiating with, is, hey, I will tell you the layout of the tower. I can tell you kind of what to watch out for. Um, you just have to agree that you're going to go get that staff. Now whether or not they agree to that, or whether or not they agree to it and then stick to that agreement, is up to them. They're probably not going to do that, but we'll see. That's one of the like 3 or 4 different endings of the campaign. You could just go back in time, and before all this happened, maybe to go back in time, and Ithrin doesn't fall. Maybe the events of Rime of the Frostmaiden never happen, and Auril never shows up because there's no Ithrin. I don't know. It's the whole butterfly effect. But that's kind of where we begin, seeing how they respond to Veneranda. Now, if they do decide to face off, it's, we have stats for Veneranda, and it's they'll miss out on a lot of key information, but we have ways to get out of that. So the other areas in the ballroom, we've got a staff room, which is 19F, and a whole lot of cool staves. Other key rooms, the study. Is it called the study in here? I guess I can use my own notes. It's called the council chambers, that has the note regarding the location of the spindle, which is in the quote unquote stasis chamber. Now, they're probably not going to know where that is, but maybe that's something that Veneranda can reveal. G is the lounge area with the band. H is the bar where they can go get, they can get some alcohol if they want it. And Veneranda also will let the party know that, hey, this she knows what's going on. After Ithrin fell, whoever were like the surviving members of Iriel Arthas' staff, I guess, they had a chance to prolong their life in the form of being a brain in a jar. 3 of them took that, which are the 3 brain in a jars in this room. But such is life. They just couldn't accept their fate. They didn't want to accept the reality of the situation, the fact that the city fell. So they created this illusion, this permanent party. It's basically the manifestation of their complete and utter denial of reality. They don't want to accept the fate of the reality of Ithrin. So they've made this illusion, pretending like things are just business as usual. This is their creation, their coping mechanism, as it were. And Veneranda will let them know that and said, hey, like, you might want to not agitate them, by the way. Like, try not to point out that it's an illusion. Try not to dispel it. They're really not cool with that. You can if you want, but, I'm not going to be here to help you out. So we'll see what happens there. 19I is this force bridge. And it is a gap between the chamber of... Is this called the Chamber of Sorcery? I already forgot. Testing chamber, no. It is called, the Chamber of Sorcery, with another NPC named Everlast. Now, one thing I'm going to add to this section, this area with the force bridge, this weird, complete void of nothingness that merely has a wall of force that is a bridge to get across to the other side. I would like to give some payoff to a dream that I gave to Jack Forrest many sessions ago in Ithrin, where he got to see how Ithrin fell from a first-person perspective, as he found himself in a Chardalyn mine, carrying Chardalyn back to Ithrin, basically, and then in one other scene of that dream was transporting it to some storage warehouse in Ithrin, and then saw the spindle go off and the city fall. He is well aware that there were other beings like him in Ithrin utilized for the purposes of mining Chardalyn, that were kind of scattered and destroyed when the city fell from the explosion. I would like to make this section basically a giant warehouse, a magical warehouse that still has a few of those uh, mechs remaining. You know, in a very sort of a creepy way. They're just sort of hanging on support structures in like a row, like they're, you know, suits of armor or something. Uh, and this space is much bigger than it appears on the map. Um, by the book, it's completely nothing. So I thought this would be a cool way to include some things from before and give it some payoff. Since because of that dream, he was sort of wondering if there were other mechs down here somewhere, and this is kind of where I want to put it. Um, so yeah, so they'll make their way across the force bridge, hopefully. Uh, maybe they don't even know, maybe Veneranda isn't aware, and I could have like a cool comedic moment where they try to, you know, bamf over there or something, or try to secure a grappling hook and shimmy their way across, and they start to fall and they hit this force field. I don't know, that could be fun too. 19J is the Chamber of Sorcery with the NPC Everlast, who's basically like a guide that can kind of transport anywhere within the tower. And is sort of the backup just in case things don't go so well with Veneranda. He's going to be the one that's like, I can still give them some information somehow. Um, if they, you know, if they broker a deal with Veneranda and then still go and encounter Everlast, I think he's mostly just going to be a somebody that kind of watches them out of boredom and maybe even taunts them sometimes. I don't know. I'm gonna play it by ear. If the scene doesn't need any more lightheartedness, I might not include it. But if it could use sort of a pressure valve of something, you know, kind of funny and interesting. If it's getting a little too tense, maybe this could be a good way to relieve that a little bit if I need to. At the very top of this room, I think they have to make a pretty hard DC to see this hidden trap door, which is kind of one of my pet peeves of D&D. Is you shouldn't ever be well, first of all, you shouldn't ever do anything all the time, but you probably shouldn't be hiding narrative progression behind a good dice roll, right? And the only way to get up to the next section in the tower is to notice this hidden trap door. If you don't notice it, you're just stuck. So I don't think it's a good idea to put this behind like a DC 20 or whatever it is, without some backups to help them figure it out. So we'll see how the dice roll. If it's a good dice roll, if they make the DC, then obviously we reward it. And if not, maybe this is where we kind of bring in Everlast. I don't know. At the top of this, they get transported up. I think it's not magical transportation. They have to still get their way up there. They find themselves in 19K. It's this oval-shaped room. There is a frost-covered dome surrounding the hole at the top. This is held in place magically by an emerald that they can see on the other side of the room. Now, they will have to clear away some frost to see anything. At the other side is a doorway. Above the doorway is an emerald kind of sort of stuck in stone. And there are two living blades of disaster guarding this door. Now, I think this is going to be so. And if you disable the emerald in any way, then the force field surrounding this magical bubble, that's kind of what deactivates that. Is you have to shatter the emerald or trigger it somehow. This is going to be a great little mini puzzle for Jack Forrest, the Echo Knight fighter, because of all the party members, he's probably the one that could do this very easily. All you'd have to do is summon the Echo on the outside, trade places with it, or you could even, he has this ability where you can see through the eyes of his Echo. So you could even do that, walk the Echo up to the emerald, shatter it, and it would be problem solved, no problem. So I think this is going to be a really cool scenario to see how he handles that. I guess there's a lot of other ways you could do it too. If you had, you know, like a mage hand or something like that, you could also do it that way. Unseen servant's another way you could do it. But that's kind of the way that I'm thinking Jack would approach the problem. Is just, oh, summon the Echo and go and take that Emerald out. Now the tough part here is going to be destroying these Blades of Disaster, because these are a bit nasty. We are using the critical hit rules that I think a lot of campaigns do, where if you get a crit, it's automatic full dice plus dice roll. These have their own special rules. I clicked the wrong button. They have their own special rules for critical hits. I'm not going to combine them because it'd be just way too over the top brutal. But when they crit, instead of doing max dice roll, they do. Here it is. They do. Instead of 4d12, they do 12d12. The other thing is they get crits on 18s and up. So very good chance that it's going to do a lot of damage. So I think we'll probably play out the encounter here. We're going to see what happens. I think I'll do it a little bit, but I'm not going to make whatever. If characters fall in this combat, is obviously not canon. It's just going to be, I'm just doing this one-on-one tonight for the sake of seeing how the character of Jack Forrest will respond and input and all that. The canon's going to be tomorrow night, so if any party members fall tonight that aren't Jack, it's not going to be obviously the canon. I probably won't even. We might just have a bit of a save state sort of a situation, or maybe I just won't run encounters tonight. We'll see. Maybe I will. Maybe I'll have like a couple of dice rolls just to demonstrate what they can do, so that the player knows what they can do. But I think I might just proceed as if they succeeded. So following up on that, this passageway, this doorway, this little passageway is a good word, is in fact trapped. And if I remember right, you have to trigger it 3 times before it's not, before it's basically disabled. And I think it just specifies walking over the floor. And let's just look that up again. It is, where is it trapped? It's not I, is it? I remember it's trapped, but I don't remember where it specifies. It's obviously this here. Oh, here we go. It's listed in the next section. This magical trap fills the 10-foot square area immediately south. So it's not cube, it's a 10-foot square area. So it's just the floor. So if they find a way to, jump over, or in Jack Forrest's case, you could just swap places with an Echo. You could fly over it. There's really nothing to indicate that it's trapped, though. They could send somebody else ahead, triggering the trap, and then seeing the effects, and well, let's not step there. They could investigate it for being trapped, and I guess that's one way they could notice it. And it is the Flesh to Stone spell, which is kind of a nasty spell if I remember correctly. It's basically like it takes a couple of turns before you're just basically turned to stone. So not a very pleasant spell to deal with. They come into the next chamber, and there's a series of, should be 8 doors. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And above the door, on the doors are 8 symbols indicating each school of magic. Somewhere in this room also, maybe written above each one of the doors, will say in Draconic, "Speak thy master's name and enter." So basically what they have to do is say the correct High Arcanist for that school of magic that is the High Arcanist of Ithrin, which they've met quite a number of them, and they should have names at their disposal, especially Diviner Apius was the most recent one. If they do so, the door opens no problem. It's a one at a time sort of door, so they can't just one door and everybody bum rush go in. If they don't, if they just open the door and go in, door shuts behind them, it's completely dark, and they face off with a barbed devil one-on-one. It's a challenge rating 5, and it's got some nasty stuff. Shouldn't be too much of a challenge, depending on who they're facing off with. But there is that penalty if they don't do this section right. Inside in 19M, the Chamber of the Ebon Star. One of my favorite spots in the Spire, because it's a completely dark room except for this magical star field in the very center. And it's this really beautiful three-dimensional stars field representing space as the residents of... Oh, thank you for that bell in the middle of the stream. Magical three-dimensional representation of the night sky as the residents of Ethrin would have known it. With one exception, there's this black star sort of in the middle of everything that shouldn't be there. They called it the Ebon Star. Now, what exactly is that is really left up to your imagination. I have read some stuff on Reddit that I really liked, and it makes sense for this campaign. I'm going to say that that star, that black star, is a representation of the goddess Shar, because that just makes sense. We've seen her in other sections in this campaign so far, and the idea that maybe she had a presence even back then, or maybe this starfield is a representation of the sky at the current time, and that dark star, I guess this wouldn't really, I'm thinking out loud, it wouldn't really make sense if this was called the Chamber of the Ebon Star, and they wouldn't have known to call it that. But so it probably makes more sense that this always existed, and this is representing the sky back then. But kind of cool that maybe she had a place in the sky even back then. Kind of creepy. But that is her. And I think there's a thing where if you look at it or something, you can possibly, where is it? There's some penalty. Is it in here? Yeah, a character who studies the star field sees this strange phenomenon, the dark star in a position where no known star exists today. The character now risks being cursed. You have to, at the end of the character's next long rest, to make a DC 20 intelligence saving throw and a failed save. They have the following flaw: I can't look at the sky because the Ebon Star might be looking back at me. So we'll take note of that. However, the Starfield is also surrounded by these 8 chairs. A couple other areas in here as well. There is 19N, which is the stasis chamber, the area where the spindle exists, and we have this really, really cool artwork. Is it? I think they put it in here. Everything's kind of scattered. Yeah, we have this. So cool. They better go here because this artwork is so good. There is this spindle still floating and rotating, and radiating outward from it are these large cracks in the stone and in the floor, obvious signs of an explosion. But the spindle still remains just sort of floating and slowly rotating with this swirling bluish purple light. So cool. So cool. Can't wait to show that art. Actually, let's close this up. Close that. In 19O, I don't remember what's in O. The library, that's right. There is the library. Oh yeah, and I'm having Esther also here. Esther is an NPC ally of one of our characters, one of our player characters. She's unconscious and holding on to a broken Exandrian beacon. I'm mainly including this because the player that is playing Sarah Gritz, who is the PC who's the ally of Esther, said that part of their end game and their hope is that they can somehow have some interaction in another campaign that we're in, and the spell that they want to do it with requires that you have an artifact from that plane of existence. So I'm including a broken beacon from Exandria here just as sort of a way to do that, and sort of a little like cool nod. And it makes sense if you're all familiar with those beacons and the magic in that world. That was very much time-based. magic. It was very much magic that was about threads of possibility, timelines of existence. And Ethrin was really messing with and exploring chronomancy, which is time magic. Hence the obelisk, you know. And so it makes sense that maybe somewhere along the way, Iriel Arthas and his mages found this beacon. We're holding on to it, trying to figure out what it was. Yeah, like obviously it has something to do with time magic, but exactly what, you know? And Esther found this as she was, she had gotten flown up to the tower and was trying to just find safety because, Iriel Arthas started showing up. She found this beacon. She's unconscious in the library now. And the other thing I guess they could find here is the scroll of the comet. That's the other interesting thing. If they do some, exploring DC, whatever, to investigate and find stuff, they could find the scroll of the comet. Now back to M. So there are these 8 chairs surrounding the starry landscape, that all also have a symbol of different schools of magic. Now, if any caster sits in a chair that corresponds to their school of magic, the star field shifts and turns into a magical doorway, through which the players can enter and make their way to the top floor of the study, which is where Iriel Arthas exists and is currently residing. I think there's some other things in the study that might be where they find in the study is the Staff of Power. There are vials of Quicksilver. The incantations of Iriel Arthas, his spellbook. I'm going to make this a cursed item because it would make sense. I don't know exactly what curse, but they're probably not getting there all tonight. And the last WTF piece, which is the Scroll of Tarask Summoning. I don't know why the designers put this into the campaign. Maybe it's just, hey, you want a push the emergency red button solution to the campaign? Here you go. You want to summon a Tarask and watch it destroy Auril, as well as literally everything else? Have fun. When do you ever get to summon a Tarask in a campaign? If your players want to do it, here you go. So this is another possible way to end the campaign, is to just fuck it, destroy everything. I don't suspect they'll do that because everything that I've seen from the players indicates they want a peaceful ending. They do want to save 10 towns. They've been slowly trying to help people along the way, rescue those who seem like they could be rescued. They've sent what surviving members of Ethrin that they have come across back out, and hopefully they've given them some signs of where they could go. They're sending a lot of people back to the Akhenathi War Tribe camp, very close to the Reged Glacier. So we may see some Ethrin citizens back at the tribe camp once and if the party makes it out. So I doubt they're going to do this. They're most likely going to use the Mythalar to go back and fight Auril. I don't think they're going to take the time travel option, but you never know. They've surprised me every time. So that's kind of the last bit of Spire of Iriel Arthas. We'll have an encounter. We'll have the showdown with Iriel Arthas. After defeating the Demi-Lich for good, they will be able to attune to the Mythalar and get out of Ethrin. Finally, getting back to the surface. It has been a very long time here in Ethrin. It's been a long time not on the surface. I don't even know. I was actually curious about this. How long have we actually been in Ethrin? And it's been a while, I think. I wish I had descriptions on these session notes, because it's been a while. Yeah, back in 45, they were still in Ethrin. I think, so yeah, it was at the ending of session 44, they finally got to Ethrin. So we are almost 10 full D&D sessions in this last chapter. It's been real meaty, and it's been a lot of fun. We're coming up on the end. We may, I doubt we're going to hit 60. Might be like 57, session 57. Definitely the longest campaign I've done. But we don't have much left to go. We have the Spire of Irilarthus, transport back to Icewind Dale, see the carnage that's there. They will have more time has passed on the surface than down here. In the meantime, Auril has set up her own base of operations, basically smack in the middle of 10 towns. She has seemed that she needs to have a more direct intervention and influence over the towns, since the party, the Sunseekers, have really kind of started messing with her stuff. Um, so that's going to be the showdown. We'll see what loose ends they want to tie up, but again, we don't have much left to go, and I want to keep the momentum going. So tonight I have a one-on-one with one player to see kind of what his character would do and to keep him more directly involved in the campaign, instead of just, trying to role play out or trying to act for him in combat and then just telling him what happened. This is going to be way more satisfying. And because, like I said at the start, because this final dungeon, it's a dungeon, is very linear, and there's not a lot of ways to kind of branch off and do something completely different. I think this is a unique opportunity that I can run two different sessions and tie them together, and it should go well. I think. I don't think there's going to be anything weird where like the player tonight does one thing and then the party tomorrow night does something completely different, and then all of a sudden the player tonight knows different things that he shouldn't. I think it's going to be fine. I'm excited to see how it goes. I've never run one-on-one D&D, so this should be interesting. So I think that's going to wrap it up. I still need to do a little bit before the session, which I will do offline, off screen, which is I need to search for some better music, and I'm going to assign some different stuff to these different sections in the tower. I got to figure out what that's going to be, and maybe pick out some really cool boss music for Irilarthus. So that I will do as soon as I click the stop recording button, stop streaming, and that should do it. I will be back here next Sunday for the next D&D prep as usual, 5 p.m. Central every Sunday. Unsure if I'm going to continue the Friday night late night streams, just because I think the content that I want to make is more shorter form and not stuff that necessarily fills an hour, but I will still have those periodically as new playtest material for 1D&D comes out, so I can evaluate that, tear it to shreds, and be angry about change, all that stuff. So as for now, the guaranteed next stream will be next Sunday, 5 p.m. Central for D&D prep. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.